Hi, this is Marty Bradley and welcome to Cucumber-JVM Project Setup. In this module, we're going to prep your development environment to do behavior-driven development. I'll introduce you to Cucumber-JVM BDD tool. I'll provide an overview of Gherkin files consumed by the Cucumber-JVM. Then we'll jump into the IDE and we'll set up the airport valet parking project in Eclipse. This will get you set up for the next module where we'll build out the behavioral tests. Finally, we'll come back and I'll provide a summary of what we've just learned. Cucumber-JVM is a pure Java implementation of the Cucumber Behavior-Driven Development tool. Cucumber-JVM hooks into JUnit, facilitating the red-green refactor development cycle from test-driven development. Gherkin is a plain text file used by all Cucumber tools to generate test code. The text is written in business-readable domain-specific language, or DSL, and serves as a documentation, automated tests, and development aid, all rolled into one format. The Gherkin file describes the features of the system with a few key examples or acceptance criteria. These examples are defined using the scenario keyword. You can have many scenarios in a feature. This provides a way to chunk up the implementation of the feature into small slices. Steps are the domain language phrases that we can combine to write the scenarios. They can either refer to a context of a scenario, an action that scenario describes, or a way to validate the action. The given keyword and its DSL phrase is where we provide context for the scenario. The when keyword and its DSL phrase describes the action to be performed. And the then keyword and its DSL phrase describes the expected outcome. Here's an example of a feature file in a DSL we used on a project at an online university. The highlighted terms were used in the feature and scenario descriptions given to us by the product owner. These same objects, course, topic, and course code, exist as objects in the system today. Now let's jump into the IDE and see how we set up a Cucumber-JVM project. We're going to go in File. We're going to set up a new Maven project. So we're going to select Project, Maven Project. Then move on and going to create using the Quick Start archetype and give it a group ID, com.bdd. Artifact ID will be airport parking, and then we'll give it a package name. Let Maven put some default information into our file. Let's open that up and let's go take a look at the POM XML. Now, as you can see, the POM XML is nothing more than the XML file for Maven. You see that here, and this is where we're going to add our dependencies for our project. So we're going to go over and we're going to use the plugin for Maven and just use that to search out for our dependencies. We'll click here. The JUnit that comes default is a lower version than we want. We actually want the 4.1.1 version. So we're going to remove that one, and let's go do a search and find the JUnit that we're looking for. So you just type in if I could spell JUnit, and do a search, open it up, and then we'll select, and make sure you select it. For some reason when you click the top one it doesn't select the very first one. Then we go in there and you want to make sure that the properties for Maven are set up for test. So that way whenever you're doing a build, it'll only do it for a test, it won't do it for a release build. Now we're going to go in and do this. We're going to add in the rest of the dependencies for the Cucumber-JVM stuff. And you can see we want to use the 1.1.2 version because that's got the best connection with JUnit. Now when you save this, you'll see that all your dependencies are now in your Maven project. So let's go in and the Maven, when it does that, it creates some default classes for you. Let's go ahead and delete those, get rid of the app.java. And the app.test.java. Just going to delete those and make sure we start with a clean project. So now let's just go do a Maven build, just a Maven test, option 9 there for M2. And you'll see the log4j, that warning, it'll pop up every time that's something with Maven and default. You'll see that there, build success. There are no errors, obviously no test runs because we haven't created anything yet. So let's go create a source file folder that we'll use to put our feature files in. Basically our Gherkin. So it's a source, test, resources file, library. We're just going to set it up there, set a folder up. And now before we do anything else, let's go ahead and hook up Cucumber-JVM so we can put hooks into JUnit. So to do that, we're going to just create basically a runner file that will grab JUnit, hook into JUnit so that it can accept our feature file. So let's just call this Cucs runner. And it's just a normal class file. And then we're going to do a couple of imports, the Cucumber API for JUnit, and then the runner.runWith from JUnit. So we're going to use runWith cucumber.class. That's the class we're going to use to override. And then we're going to add some Cucumber options. We have our features file. Tell us where we're putting our .features file. Remember we created that folder. And this is an empty class, so I just like to close it up. So let's just save that. Let's do another Maven test build, just to make sure we haven't broken anything. So we'll see again that everything will run okay. It'll make sure it's downloaded all of our dependencies, and again, still no test. Now let's go ahead and create the .feature file, and this is where we're going to hold our gherkin. So let's just call valet parking.feature. Let's type in the keywords. Remember, very few keywords: feature, valet, parking. And let's just cut and paste our user story from our user story system using the backlog item. And then scenarios. So notice the user story is just text. It's just documentation. It's just ignored by Gherkin and by Cucumber-JVM. So the first scenario we're going to do is calculate the valet parking cost for half an hour. Very straightforward. We don't need a given in this case. We don't have any setup. So when I park my car in valet parking lot for 30 minutes, then I'll have to pay $12. Very straightforward scenario. We're just going to save that. And let's go fix up our features so that we can see it inside of the editor. So we're just going to edit it with text editor. That way it shows up nice and clean. Let's just close up the IDE here so we can reposition the box, the windows, so we can get a better look at what the console is. So now that remember we put a hook in for JUnit, so now we can run this as a JUnit test. We'll run it. You'll see that everything's green. You get your normal JUnit thing, and look what Cucumber does. It tells you can implement missing steps with the snippets below. So it's not only a test framework, but also a code generator. And you'll see that the scenarios didn't actually run. I prefer this to show up as yellow, but for some reason it shows up as green, mostly because it doesn't see any failures. So let's go create our steps file to just build the shells so we can implement our when and our then. So we'll create a new class. And let's just call this valet parking steps. So you see now all we're going to do is we're just going to cut and paste the when and the then right out of our console app. Right out of the console, not necessarily an app at that point. Okay, we're just going to cut and paste, and let's go add in our imports from Cucumber to handle the pending exception and the when and then keywords. So import pending exception and then Cucumber API Java when and then. Now let's just go ahead and run this again. And you'll see now Cucumber again is helping you out. It's telling you to go ahead and implement the when scenario. Okay, so you can see that now we're all set up to go ahead and start implementing our tests. And in the next module, we'll actually go in and implement the code so that we can start to run these tests. Okay, so let's summarize. Cucumber-JVM is a pure Java implementation of the Cucumber BDD tool. Cucumber-JVM uses the Gherkin feature file to generate test code. Cucumber-JVM hooks into JUnit and supports the red-green refactor process of test-driven development. Our project is now set up to start writing failing tests and then implementing the features to make those tests pass.